I have 5 o'clock, Joyce.
We're all ready, sir.
Okay. Like to call the regular meeting of the Cobre Board of Education into session. Please let the minutes show that board members are present. Mr. Cordova,
Here.
Mr. Gomez,
Present.
Mr. Guadiana,
Here.
and myself are present. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the is symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. First of all, before we begin here, I'd like to welcome our student rep and introduce him. Could you introduce him, Joyce, since you're there with everybody?
Mr. President, members of the board, we do have with us today Alex Ortiz. Alex is a senior at Cobre High School, and he is our student rep for this year. So, Alex, we're really excited to have you here, and welcome.
Welcome, Alex. And then also, I don't know, Gabriel, are you on with your letter? Is he on, Victor, anywhere?
No, sir, he is not.
Okay. And thank you. Moves us to item number 2, action items. Joyce?
Item A is approval of agenda items.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez. Second?
Second, Frank.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any changes to the agenda?
I had a question. I had submitted a request for an agenda item related to the appointment of a board member becoming an employee of the district in violation of statute 22.55.
That will be discussed in the first public input.
Okay, I can do that then.
Okay.
But
Any other thing?
But the request was for an action item for a request for legal review.
Well, that is something that I think for action item, the whole board needs to agree on. Or not agree, but to make it an action item, I think it's got to be brought before us here, and then the board can agree to move it forward to an action item or just discuss it in open session in the next public input, I mean.
The discussion of it being an action item would require the board majority to move it forward. It being on the agenda doesn't require that already because it would be pre-vote.
Well, that is something that we can put for the next meeting.
If the majority agrees?
Yes, to move it forward.
But it will be on the agenda then for the next meeting.
It'll be here to discuss. Not to anything like that, then the board can agree, yes, let's go ahead and move it forward.
Okay, we can discuss it further in the update of the public input.
Okay. Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Cordova?
Yes, aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Guadiana? Myself, aye. Motion passes. Item B. Entertain a motion for approval of October 18th meeting. Minutes.
So move. Cordova.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
Gomez, second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any corrections to those minutes of October the 18th?
Yes, I have a concern.
Call for the vote.
I have a concern.
Go ahead.
President. There was public.
Mr. Guadiana, you need to please speak up into the microphone because we cannot hear you.
Okay, is this better? I guess so. It's interesting to see a transcript, and I appreciate that, but there was public comment, and the public comment was not included in the minutes.
Public comments from who?
I believe Mr. Esqueda made a comment regarding the need to have the language on the scope of work that I was suggesting. And that, I don't know if that came on the first public input or the second public input.
That I don't know.
Mr. Guadiana, are you confusing that one with the 25th? Was it public input in regards to the gym project? Because I was on the 25th.
The what packet?
The gym project? No?
No,
It was on this meeting?
no, this was on getting the scope of work for the RFP, going for the consultants to hire, to do the search for the superintendent.
If, Mr. President, or if I may just say, this last meeting we had, Jackie gave the presentation here. There was no public input on anything from here.
Yes, there was. He was on the screen, and he gave public input. He's here if we want to ask him.
Mr. President, if you want, what we can do is we can go back and review the recorded minutes of the meeting from October 18th, just to assure that we did or did not leave off any important comments that we needed to include on here. So if you want to table this, we will go back and we will review
that's
the
what-
comments.
That's what I was going to say, Joe, is that let's review the recording of October the 18th and see that we didn't leave nothing off. And also, I'm not too sure if that was on there or not. I can't remember that. But anyway, I'll entertain a motion to table.
I would move that we table the minutes until the next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Gomez, second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other comment? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Cordova,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
Mr. Guadiana,
Aye.
myself, aye. Motion carries. Those minutes from October 18th will be tabled till the next meeting.
Mr.
Brings us to
President,
finance. Terry,
next item on the agenda
Go ahead,
is
Ms.
finance with
Varela.
Terry, approval of October, November checks that were reviewed by the Finance Committee, as well as a COVID testing award.
Good evening.
you heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Sepulveda, she's barely going to present.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought
Mr.
the committee had already seen that. Okay,
Mr. President, members of the board, we have approval of the October, November checks that began with October 22nd and ended with November 2nd, that were presented and discussed at the Finance Committee on Thursday. Are there any questions on, they're included in the packet?
Okay. Do I hear a recommendation?
Mr. President, I recommend approval of the October-November checks as presented by Ms. Holguin as is listed in our packet and as has been reviewed by the Finance Committee.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move this.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move. This is Gilbert.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana. I can barely hear you, Mr. Guadiana. But motion by Mr. Guadiana. Second?
Gomez, second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other questions on those checks? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Cordova.
Yes, aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Guadiana.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries. Moves us to B.
Mr. President, members of the board, in your packet is the budget adjustment request for a new award called New Mexico Schools COVID-19 Testing Program by the DOH. This award is lined out for health assistance. It's 2 FTEs and additional compensation for the current nurses, and also the benefits that go along with the hiring of the health assistants. The
Okay.
total amount of the award is $102,460. This was also presented at the Finance Committee.
Mr. President, I recommend approval of the COVID testing award as presented by Terry and as listed in board packets.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Cordova, motion.
Motion by Mr. Cordova. Second?
Gilbert, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Cordova.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Guadiana.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item D.
Item D is a donation from the first annual Autism Fest in the amount of $1,365. In meeting with the people from the committee, they recommended that the money go to special education programs. And so what I did is I actually took the 40th day enrollment, divided it, looked to see how many students we had. I divided the amount out. And so the amount will be given to each school based on their special education enrollment. So Bayard Elementary has 51 students. They'll get $336.96. Central has 27 students. They will get $177.93. Hurley has 23 students, $151.57. San Lorenzo has 15. They'll get $98.85. Snell Middle School has 50 students. They'll get $329.50. And Cobre High School has 41 students, so they'll get $270.19 for a total of $1,365. So I recommend acceptance of this very generous and much appreciated donation.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Gomez, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
This is Gilbert, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any other comments? Could we make sure, Joyce, that we send a very thankful letter to him?
Yes, and we will also be posting a picture. We'll take an ad out, put a picture in the newspaper with a thank you. We did take a picture. Mr. Turieta, Mr. Robert Padilla, and Ms. Hernandez and myself. And so we will also be putting a picture and an article in the newspaper and on our social media pages.
Thank you. Any other comments? Call for the vote. Signify by saying aye. Mr. Cordova?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Guadiana?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries. Item E.
Item E is a resolution in support of New Mexico's Year of Literacy. So with Dr. Kurt Steinhaus being appointed as a designate of Public Education Department, they're asking that all districts adopt a resolution in support of the Year of the Literacy. And I thought with some of the grants that we have that are really supporting literacy, like our Circle grant and our CLSD grant, this really falls in alignment with some of our district goals. So the resolution reads, whereas in August of 2021, Dr. Kurt Steinhaus was appointed Secretary Designate of the New Mexico Public Education Department. And whereas the Secretary Designate has extended an invitation to schools and districts across New Mexico to join in making the 2021-2022 school year the Year of Literacy. And whereas reading and writing are essential foundational skills in every child's educational journey and pathway to success. And whereas the Public Education Department has invested in the professional development of educators and high-quality instructional materials to teach reading in classrooms across the state. And whereas every child should have access to grade-level content and reading materials that are culturally and linguistically responsive and sustaining. And whereas increasing literacy proficiency is of the utmost priority of Cobre Consolidated School District. And whereas Cobre Consolidated School District believes it is imperative to instill in our children a lifelong love of learning and reading. Now therefore the board, by unanimous approval by its members, hereto declares this the Year of Literacy in Cobre Consolidated School Districts. And again, as I said, this has been one of our initiatives for the last several years. We have been having intensive professional development with Readers, Writers Workshop. We did this year also just purchase some structured literacy materials for kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, and we will be having some professional development in that area as well. So based on some of our goals that we have in our district and our grants that we have, this really falls in alignment. So I encourage and recommend passage of this resolution in support of New Mexico's Year of Literacy.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion.
Cordova, second. Motion by Cordova.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
Second, Gilbert.
Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any comments or questions? Call for the vote. Signify by saying aye. Mr. Cordova.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Guadiana.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries. Bring us to update on unfinished business. And I don't think we have any. So
No, we
moves
do
us
not.
to public input. Say again? Somebody said something.
I said there was no unfinished business.
Okay, I'm sorry. It brings us to public input. At this time, we'll entertain anything from the public in reference to our agenda.
I'd like to make a comment.
Do we have anything, Victor?
I'd like to make a comment.
No, sir, not at the moment. We do not.
Okay,
Okay. I would like to make a comment as discussed earlier, and that was regarding a statute, Chapter 22 of the Public School, Article 5, referring to local school boards, Section 22.55, and it retains to prohibited employment. The statute reads, "No member of a local school board shall be employed in any capacity by the school district governed by that school board during the term of office for which the member has been elected or appointed." What transpired in the last meeting is a violation of this act. And a school board member cannot become a member, cannot become an employee of the school district during this term. This term for Mr. Holguin ends at the end of this year, and then is extended for an additional 4 years.
I had to join with Google Meet.
What's that? And by, this is clearly a violation. I've asked for the legal opinion, but it really is pretty self-indicative that that's not allowed. And not only did we violate it by asking for the resignation now and employing him now, but also by asking for his resignation at the beginning of the new term. So I would hope that we would put an end to this, being that it is against the law, or further action has to be considered.
so what are you referring to here? That Mr. Holguin was on the board before he got a contract, or what?
The statute says, this prohibits a board member from being employed during the term of his office. His term does not end until the end of this year, and then begins again at the beginning of next year and goes on for 4 more years. Anytime throughout that term is prohibiting him from being a board, an employee of the district. And
So in other words, what you're saying is that a person that is elected to that position cannot resign at any time.
oh, they can resign anytime they want to. They can't resign and
Yes.
they can't resign and become an employee of the district for the remainder of their term.
If he resigns, let me tell you, if he resigns, he's no longer a board member.
That is
And that's
true.
why he's not here today either, because he is not a board member. So that means he can sign a contract and go to work.
No, it doesn't. It says he cannot be an
Yes, it does.
employee during his term.
That
His
is
term-
that
his
is your
term doesn't
interpretation.
end.
But yeah, but that is your interpretation of it. A person can resign anytime. Once they resign, they're just a member of the public, and he can get a job with the schools anywhere.
There's an
In other words, right now, if somebody offered you, Mr. Williana, a job as a superintendent that pays you $100,000 a year, you mean to tell me that you cannot resign a board and take that job?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's an annotation that's noted on this one, and it says, "A member of a local school board member cannot resign from such an office and thereafter become appointed superintendent of the schools unless otherwise."
Yeah, but he's no longer a board member.
Here it says, let me take it a little bit slower. A local school board member cannot resign from such an office and thereafter be appointed superintendent.
Now he can resign at any time and take a job.
This is in law, and it's written right here. It specifically says a board member cannot resign and then thereafter be appointed for a position.
And read down a little bit farther, and it says also that statute may not be up to date.
That's true. And this is the most recent one that's posted.
That's
So-
true.
So,
It might not be up to date.
so we're agreeing then that this statute would prohibit that employment.
No, it wouldn't, because he's not a board member anymore.
This is why I asked for a legal opinion, and this is why it's needed. And for a request like that to be.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question. Does the rest of the board want a legal opinion on this?
You would have to ask them.
Well, that's what I'm asking. And
Going
if
back
they
to
want a legal opinion, we can bring one up later.
You told them no?
Okay? Sounds like we're not.
Cordova, no.
Any other public input? Other public input?
I didn't understand what you said.
Well, does the rest of the board want a public, legal opinion on this thing? That a person cannot take a job resigning from the board?
Well, having learned from Mr. Jaramillo's presentation the last time, then it leaves my only recourse then to refer this to the Attorney General's office.
Well, you can.
I shall.
That's your,
I shall.
okay. All right. Move on. Other public input? Okay. Moves us to administration.
Mr. President, under administration, item I, district audit. The district and the auditor have met with the audit committee and have requested an extension for submission of our district audit. We're working with clearing issues in the audit process while working on system adjustments as well.
Okay.
Can I get more information on that?
Item B.
That happened 2 years ago, where we had the auditor actually make a lot of recommendations for corrections, which were done and were submitted way past our deadline. How is that happening again?
Until the audit report is released, the audit committee is not allowed to discuss anything on the audit until we get the formal report from our auditor.
This is deja vu. During the last time we met, we discussed with the auditor present whether the board could get a draft of what's being reviewed, and that be done privately. We cannot disclose that information.
So when we had our meeting with the audit committee and the auditor reminded everyone on the committee that we are not allowed to share any information until the final release of the audit report.
That excludes other board members. If you look at the meeting that Mike Stone made the comment that yes, we could get drafts.
And Mike Stone is the person in the audit committee who made the comment that we are not allowed to share any information in reference to the audit until the audit is released.
Okay, then,
And
Has-
those were his exact words to us. Mr. Cordova, Mr. Gomez were in the meeting as well.
I would like to get clarification from the auditor as to whether that prohibits the rest of the board members from receiving the draft.
Any comment?
This is an individual request. I'm not asking for consensus.
Mr. President, at this time, I don't think there is a draft copy. According to the auditor, they are still working on the audit, and nothing has been completed yet. So there's not a draft copy at this time. They're still working on it, and he said what we discussed there stays there till it comes back from Santa Fe.
That's acceptable, but the draft is what I'm looking for. So when it's prepared, I'd like to see it.
There isn't a draft copy.
Okay, until such time that there is, then that's fine.
I don't know that there is going to be a draft copy.
Yes, because that is, once it comes back from Santa Fe and the board approves the audit that comes back from Santa Fe, then it becomes public information.
Yeah, general public, but the board has the ability to see the draft, and the draft is the submission that we send to the state. 30 years.
Well,
as a
according to the
board,
auditor,
you should know
that's the way that it's gonna be until they get back.
Mr. Waliana, I have stated what Mr. Stone told us, and if you have any further questions, take it up with the president of the board, and maybe he can clarify it through Mike Stone, and that's the end of it.
Consider that my question, Mr. President.
Item B. What's that?
Said, consider it my question as to
I
whether-
can't hear you.
Consider it my question to the
Okay.
to the auditor, Mike Stone, whether the board can see a draft, and that draft being the compilation of what is being submitted to the state, and the board members' right to see that document.
I'll ask him.
Mr. President, item B under administration is capital outlay application proposal. We have two projects that we're looking at going forward with, so Mr. Peru and Mr. Arambula will report on those.
Yes, as everybody's aware, we have retired 3 buses. One of them is 13, 8, and 9, and we're in the process of retiring number 18, which is one of the third newest bus, which will be getting retired in 2024. So one of the things that we will be applying for is 2 buses. One of the things, and it's very crucial, and we're in dire need of having to have those so that we can be able to transport anybody with activities. They're actually our activity buses, but they'll transport any activity and athletics. And right now, we are down to 2 buses to transport all activities and all athletics. So we will be applying for those 2 buses also. And then also, Mr. Arambula was going to present on what we're going to be doing with the IT part.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, so we're going to be going after a project for that pertains to security. The district-wide is in desperate need of cameras. So we're requesting, we're going to request the funding for a project to try to accommodate cameras for the entire district. That's one of the biggest issues we deal with right now, currently with the middle school and the high school. There's a lot of incidents. There's nothing that's caught on. There's no cameras to be able to capture what's going on. So I believe this is a pretty significant project that we need to try to secure some funding for.
So, Mr. President, that was just informational. We are still working on the proposal, and we'll submit that in January? No. In the next couple of weeks, right, Victor?
Yes, I believe it'll be in December when we do the presentation, and we'll know early January, February, if we're successful.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Victor.
Okay. Thank you. Moves us to the superintendent report.
Okay, under superintendent report, I do have several items. Wanted the board to know that our board secretary is still out, and so we did have Irma. She is helping us with the board minutes. So we didn't bring her over immediately, so the October 25th board minutes were not in your packet for that reason. She is still working on them, and we should have them ready for the next regular board meeting. Want to thank our Cobre community for supporting Senate Bill 9. We're just really excited that we do have this funding to support our buildings, to support our students moving forward. So again, thank you to all our community members who supported Senate Bill 9. I also want to congratulate our elected board members. Mr. Guadiana, congratulations. Serena Murillo and Gabe Hogan want to congratulate the three of you on your election for board. Under fundraisers, we have a few. We have Bayard Elementary. They're doing an online sales of double good popcorn, and the purpose is for class accounts for incentives and hands-on learning materials. We have a second one from Snell Cheer to sell hot chocolate and lemonade at the Tamal Festival, IMAS, in Santa Clara. The purpose is for new pom-poms, game signs, and competition music. We also have Cobre Volleyball selling Dig Pink shirts to raise money for volleyball. And class of 2023 is selling raffle tickets for the purpose of prom and senior trip. Want to remind the board that we will have a special board meeting on November 15th at 5 o'clock here at Cobre High School Performing Arts. Also want to give a report on our positivity rates. They did go down slightly from the previous 2-week period. So from October 25th to November 5th, we had 5 cases at Bayard Elementary for a positivity rate of 2.2%. Central Elementary had 5, positivity rate of 2.2%. Hurley Elementary had 3 for a positivity rate of 1.96%. San Lorenzo Elementary has still not had any cases in the building since the first week of school, so they're at 0%. Snell Middle School had 10 cases for 3.6%, which is why we did close down Snell Middle School for 2 days to do some deep cleaning on Wednesday and Thursday of last week. We have the high school who's at 14 for a 4.0%, and overall as a district we're at a 2.85%. So for the week of October 25th through 29th, we did have 47 students who were quarantined, and for the week of November 1st through 5th, we did have 43 students quarantined. The other thing that we did is we had professional development on Friday, November 5th. We went ahead and moved that to virtual professional development. Again, give custodians time to clean all the buildings and not have to intermingle staff from different schools together. So with that, we do have an updated New Mexico PED Tool Kit that was released on November 1st. I did give you a copy of that. There are a few changes in there as far as quarantine, and the biggest change or addition that has been added is the test to stay. I'm going to give you all a copy of some information that we have sent out. So I did work over the weekend with Premier Medical Group. They will be coming in starting tomorrow. We will have a station set up at the administration office from 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock every day, Monday through Thursday. And the purpose would be to do the test to stay. So how the test to stay works is it will allow students and staff that have been close contacts in the schools to continue participating in classes and extracurricular activities if they test negative on COVID-19 rapid tests on day 1, day 3, and day 5 following exposure. So if one of those days falls, so we will not be testing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if a person's day 1 or day 5 falls on one of those days, they will continue their sequence on Monday when we return. So Premier Medical Group will be here. They will be doing the testing. Again, they'll be set up in front of the administration office. It'll be a shallow nasal swab just inside the nostril with test results back in 15 to 30 minutes. So what that'll do is, as long as students and staff that are unvaccinated are testing negative, they will be allowed to return to school immediately. So that's new, which will really help support our students and our staff to be in school, which is the whole goal of Test to Stay. Let me give you a few handouts that we have passed out to the schools, that we have posted on our social media sites, on our webpage, and then I'll take questions. So from the forms that I gave you, the first two, the letter and the flyer, those were distributed to all students today. The letter was posted on Facebook and district webpage today, as well as the flyer. The Q&A, that has not been posted yet on the website. I'm looking at having that posted tomorrow. I just wanted to review it one more time, see if there's any questions that come up from parents or staff members this evening or first thing in the morning that maybe I would add to this list. So I will be getting that out tomorrow. And then the last page is a one-pager to help support parents and show them how they would log on to the site. So we will start again with the administration office site tomorrow. But because San Lorenzo is quite a distance away, to help support our parents, we will also set up a second testing site at San Lorenzo, Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning. Although they haven't had any cases over there, we still think that it's really important to be prepared and set them up. So in talking with Premier Medical Group right now, they don't have anybody available. They're actually bringing people from out of state. Silver started their testing today, and again, we'll start ours tomorrow. And then as soon as they have a second team that's available, I was told that a lot of the flights are being canceled, and they're trying to put a team together for San Lorenzo. So we should be able to have that set up within the next few days and have a second site available to support our parents and our students and help keep our staff and our students in school. Any questions?
Mr. President, I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
One is, how often are we updating now the numbers? There was a parent that sent us an email and was concerned about the lag of time before we actually posted, and was wondering why it is we can't actually have up-to-date statistics.
The numbers have been posted up to date. I've been doing them every 2 weeks. I had been doing them on Monday, but I've been doing them on Friday now. So they were posted. What was the date of that last one?
That's actually the concern, is that if it's done every 2 weeks, there's that lag of time that people won't know if there's been an onset.
I can do it weekly. I report to the state every week. So if we want to do the numbers weekly, as opposed to every 2 weeks, that is just as easy to do.
That would be an improvement. I think that the goal was that we have an announcement system that we use to let people know, and if it was something that as we get the data, for that to be distributed via like the text or the emails or whatever the case is. So that
Yeah, we've only been posting it on our webpage.
Okay, well, the week would be an improvement, but hopefully we would move to a part that's really more of live data than something that's a week old, but it's an improvement. The other question I have is, a parent asked me, gave me a scenario that they face, and that's there's somebody in the household that is very susceptible to anything having to do with lungs, and it would be very critical. He'd be in critical condition if he was subjected to if he actually acquired the virus. he has a sibling that's attending school. And the parents are saying, maybe it's time to pull out our other child and have them stay at home and do remote learning. But when asked about doing remote learning, they said that wasn't an option for somebody on a permanent basis. Is that not the case?
No, remote learning has always been an option. From day one, we are using Edgenuity. And so for the elementary, for K through 5 that are using Edgenuity, we do have, I think, 5 students enrolled from the elementary in full remote learning and have been since day one. And so we have paid to have a teacher from Edgenuity that's doing all the instruction and all the grading, but we do have a teacher on site as well, Kelly Zuniga, that does give support to those parents. She calls them, she checks in with them on a regular basis. At the middle school and the high school, I think at the middle school we only have 1 student enrolled in remote learning, and that teacher that oversees that program is Mr. Springer. So he's been on board since day one of the program. At the high school, we only have a few students that are enrolled. I think it's 4 students that are enrolled in remote learning. They're all special needs students. So as opposed to putting them on Edgenuity, we do have Audrey Tovar, who is working with those students remotely. So remote learning has always been an option in our district from the first day of school.
And in that sense, she was told that Ingenuity was an option, but that's not what they prefer to do. As we did last year, Ingenuity was one of the options, and the teachers opted to say, no, let's keep them in our system and within the current curriculum so that they don't miss out or learn something that's not going to help them when they get on to the next grade. And
So last year was a lot different, and we did have teachers that were doing both remote learning and face-to-face learning. That is one of the things that the state did tell us that we were not required to do. It was a big responsibility on teachers to have to do both, and so the state did tell us that that is not something that we had to provide. And so Edgenuity, we did get together with the REC, and so all the districts in the consortium were all using Edgenuity at this time.
so you mentioned Mr. Springer doing a course. Would that be part of the Ingenuity, or would
Yeah,
that
he
be?
does Edgenuity, yes.
He does Ingenuity?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So what the parents need to do, if that's one of the things that they're looking at, is they contact their building principal, and the building principal and I together work to get that set up.
Okay. And how is it looking in terms of
Okay.
the possibility of going hybrid again, being that New Mexico and Grant County in particular is having such a high incident of infection?
So it would all depend on where we are. You know, again, we look at everything on a case by case, on an individual basis. The nurses, the principal, and I, you know, we all meet together regularly to make decisions about what we need to do to move forward. I think if our numbers got, you know, pretty high when we have our COVID mitigation plan that I shared with you all a while back, that is an option when our numbers do get up pretty high. So that's always on the table for us. Again, with the test to stay, it may look a lot different depending on how we do with the test to stay.
And the pivotal number was 5%, correct?
5% are great. Actually, we have it on our paper listed as greater than 5%.
Okay. The last question, particularly related to the middle school, the deep cleaning was certainly desperately needed, and I'm glad to see that happen. But how do we sustain that level of cleanliness going on forward?
We do. We are at the point now where we do have 2 people at the middle school again. We had some people that were out, and we had gone back to only having 1 person available at the middle school. Again, as I've told you in the past, we have pulled our maintenance crew. They are in the schools, in the buildings, but we had a couple of them out, so we didn't have access to them. So right now, all the schools are fully staffed with the custodians, and we do have 1 more that has been recommended for hire, correct, Ms. Davis? We're just waiting for the paperwork so that we can move forward with hiring another custodian.
So, the short answer that I'm really looking forward is, are the teachers having to clean their classrooms still?
Not that I'm aware of, but when we look at our COVID mitigation plan and we get up to 3-4% of cases, one of the things that it does say on there is that teachers at the secondary level will wipe down desks in between every class and at the elementary as well. So that would be what they would be required to do if we're at that point. But right now they shouldn't, because again, we do have our full custodians this week at least, at all the schools. But things change daily.
Yeah, they've been, from what I've heard and seen, they've been cleaning their rooms, the floors, mopping, and their storage rooms, as well as helping out in the hallways when possible.
Well, all I can say is I really appreciate their help, because right now, we're all impacted on a daily basis. I know today we had one nurse in the whole district. We're all being impacted by sickness, by illness, and, it's taking all of us to help, wherever we can. I know we've had nobody at the admin office for over a year now. We've been doing those duties, and, we really appreciate the teachers. I know that they've taken on a lot, and we know that they are helping to support and helping to clean, and we really appreciate that, because it's tough times right now for everybody, all the way around.
Thank you.
Okay, next item
Okay.
is, wait, I have a couple more, Mr. President. The next one is we do have the NMSBA annual conference coming up December 2nd through 4th. I do need to get us registered tomorrow so that we can get the early bird special. So I just want to kind of make sure where everybody is. Mr. Sepulveda, you will be attending, right?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
And then I did talk to Ms. Murillo. She will be attending as well. Mr. Guadiana, you'll be attending?
Yes.
On the registration forms, it also asks if we will be attending the Friday award lunch. I need to mark that. Mr. Cordova, will you be attending the award lunch on Friday?
I'd like to attend it.
Okay. Mr. Guadiana?
No, thank you.
Okay. We do have rooms already reserved for everybody, so I will be filling out the registration form and submitting that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, and then one last thing. We do want to let all of our veterans out there know that our students, our staff, and our schools are still thinking about you, even with our COVID restrictions, because we're not able to have a face-to-face Veterans Day program. This year's Veterans Day program will be held virtually on Thursday, November 11th, Veterans Day. We will be sending out the link, so any veterans out there, please look for the link. It'll be posted on our district Facebook page and each individual school's Facebook page as well. We want to thank Trey Burnett for helping us to get our final presentation together. And we want to thank our 4 elementary schools. I was able to preview the program, and they did a really great job on that. So we're really happy that we're still going to be able to honor our veterans even in these really difficult times. And Mr. President, that concludes my superintendent report.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joyce. Just one comment that Mr. Guadiana said that some parents were asking about when were we going to go online or hybrid. I kind of just think back when we were all online, when parents were always saying, well, when are we going to go back to school? And when are we going to go back to school? And here we are back in school, and now they're asking us, when are we going to go hybrid, or when are we going to go back online? So it's a strange situation that we are all in here, and we really need to kind of really take a look and make sure that we're doing everything safe.
Well, and
This
that
moves
is
us
the,
to
that
number
is,
7.
that is the key, Mr. President, you know, and it really is hard. I know that when COVID hits close to any of us, it is a very scary situation. I know parents are very concerned about their kids, as they should be. I know staff are concerned as well. I think that with the protocols that we have in place, that's always our first priority, is the safety of our students and the safety of our staff. And I think that
Yes.
this test to stay will really help support everyone. You know, I think the frequent testing, we will be doing surveillance testing through them as well. We have been doing surveillance testing at Cobre High School for the last more than a month, and I understand that Curative will also be bringing in another van to set up another testing site, possibly at Snell Middle School. The other thing is, in speaking with our nurses, we have been trying to set up a vaccination clinic for our students. We all know that students 5 to 11 are able to be tested now. Department of Health is not doing any additional testing sites at this time, but we will continue to work with them. And as soon as we are able and given permission, we will host a testing clinic, a vaccination clinic in our district for our parents and students as well.
Yeah. And let me tell you, this thing is, I'm still trying to get over it. I think I'm over it, but the after effects of lingering this thing on, it's no fun for anybody to get it. As of right now, I still don't get my sense of taste or smell. I still don't have it. I tell my wife, come and have some soup or something. I say, it's real good. Don't taste like nothing, but it's real good. So, you know, it's not fun for anybody. I don't desire this on my worst enemy. So we need to really take care and be safe for everybody. This moves us on to student rep report. Do you have anything, Mr. Ortiz?
No, right now I don't have a report ready, but I'll have one ready for next board meeting.
Okay, and welcome again.
Thank you.
This moves us to public input. This time we'll entertain anything from the public. Do we have anybody, Victor?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. Brings us to item 9,
Wait,
items
Mr.
for next report,
Mr.
for next
President,
meeting.
we do have somebody in the audience that wants to give public input. George Esqueda.
Okay. Go ahead, George.
Mr. President, members of the board, interim superintendent, again, George Esqueda, been here before you guys in the past, and again, just been watching virtually the last couple of meetings here today in person. Apologize, I did walk in 5-10 minutes late, so didn't catch the beginning of the meeting. Came in right at the tail end where, I guess, approval of the agenda items, and what I saw was, again, kind of what I referred back in the past about being a cohesive group. You know, I've been a member of different boards, shareholder, and typically when in working in those groups, there's that respect that when a member of that group makes a request, that request should be honored. Because again, you guys are a group elected by the public, and what I saw was, it appeared to me that action was taken by calling for a vote. You know, it was asked of, you know, member, you know, not say names, but do we move forward with it? So I took that as an action, which shouldn't have been. But again, you know, whether it's Mr. Sepulveda, Mr. Cordova, Mr. Gomez, Mr. Widiana, you know, Mr. Holguin, who's here, not here. Again, if that request is made, that should be honored, at least in my opinion. You know, that goes to, again, showing that there's that cohesiveness within the board, the willingness to want to work together. You know, I didn't see anything wrong in asking for a legal opinion. I mean, again, it's just a legal opinion. But it was a request, and the group, in my opinion, should honor that request. Because if there was, put yourself, you know, on the other side of the table. If you were to make a request and that request wasn't honored, how would they make you feel? So again, I just wanted to put that out there that, you know, again, I encourage you guys to work as a group for the betterment of the students, the staff, you know, everybody within the Cobre School District. You know, you may all have your differing in opinions, values, may like each other, may not like each other, but you guys need to put that, whether you like each other or not like each other, beside, you know, put that away when you show up here the second and fourth Mondays of the month to discuss school district policies, procedures, staff, and how to move the district in a positive way or make improvements. So that's just my my personal public input. And as always, if you guys have any questions of me, I'll certainly be willing to entertain any questions, but if not, I'll go back to my seat. All right, well, thank you. Mr. President, I have a comment, and that is one that.
Thank you, George.
Thank you very much, George. I think that was very well stated, and hopefully received in that manner. But for the record, the district policy for legal opinion requests allow the superintendent as well as the president of the board to unilaterally decide to do such. And the requirement is that the outcome of that request be shared with the board. It's a practice we're not very good at doing. But even simple requests for public information are now filtered through legal counsel. It's a practice that we do at a drop of a dime. And to see that in this case, there is clearly not only a violation of the statute, but then a proposed continuation in the following year that benefits the makeup of the board, which I think is the underlying purpose. So I appreciate the comment, and I just want to point out that it is a matter of the contentive nature of the dynamics of the board.
Well, you know, Mr. Widiana, again, I certainly don't understand or will say that I have know anything about the statute, so I don't. But, you know, your comment about requests going through legal, you know, I have personal knowledge of that as well. So, again, whether it be one or two requests, I mean, that's what your guys as attorneys are there for. To seek legal guidance, legal opinion, to hopefully keep you as a board out of potential litigation. So again, by calling for a vote earlier, I don't see that as should have happened. So again, I just wanted to state that in terms of statute, I have no idea, but just wanted to voice my personal opinion in regards to whether it be yourself, Mr. Cordova, Mr. Gomez, you know, new member Murillo, you know, if a request is made from you guys as board members, it's my opinion that
the superintendent should be given the authority to be able to look into that and provide a response to either whomever board member is requesting it or the board member as a whole. So, thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay, any other public input? Okay, moves us to items from next agenda. Do we have any, Joyce?
Approval of board minutes.
The approval of board minutes of October 18th and October 25.
Okay. Okay,
What date is
anything
the
else?
next- What date is the next board meeting?
The regular board meeting is December, hold on, I have it right.
13th. I believe it's the 13th, Joyce.
I believe you're correct.
There are 3 board members attending a training session during that, prior to that. And according to board policy, the board members attending the training are supposed to come back and make a report of that training as to how they benefited from it and what possible implementation we might consider from suggestions of that board. I would think that we could put that on the agenda for each individual board member.
In the past, what we've done there, we've always put it under public input.
There's never been a report from any board member that has attended any conference. I've made reference to things that have been said, but we have failed in our compliance with that requirement of policy. And I would like to see that change. Not as a personal preference, but as a requirement of the board to comply with its policy.
Be first in line.
And Mr. Guadiana, I will just say that I do remember sitting in some meetings. I know Mr. Cordova has presented on various trainings that he has attended. Mr. Gomez has presented as well in the past.
Mr. President, I know that when we attend meetings, we always bring back any training material that is there. We leave it at the office for board members that did not attend, and we talk about the Region 8 or the meetings in all our meetings.
Then it shouldn't be a problem having that on the agenda. That's not what the policy calls for.
Not an agenda item.
Another thing?
That's everything.
Okay, none?
So move.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, we adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you in Albuquerque.
No, reminder, there's a special board meeting November 15th.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
5 o'clock here at the Performing Arts.
Yes.